Yeah, position size is everything.
Hmm.
And I think one of the lessons I've learned over the, even these past, 4 or 5 years is you don't have to be all or none. I mean, I've
Yeah.
always kind of traded extremes, and like if I believe in something, I'd have a, enormous position, much more than, 20 or 30%. I can go much higher than that. And so if you're wrong, you can really hurt yourself. So um, I remember back in this time frame with Apple, in my personal account, there's one point in here I had all my money in Apple, everything.
Hmm.
And if I had held the whole thing during the entire run, it'd be worth like $70 million now.
Hmm.
Um, but these it's really not possible, I think, to do so when you've got that much money on the line, and if you're going through a deep base, you're gonna get hurt. And there's just no reason, to put yourself in that position. So, uh,
And look, as a reminder, we went through Cisco before, and even though it topped in 2000, it's not like Cisco was like a lot of these internet companies that went out of business. Cisco had a thriving business
yeah,
for the last 25 years. They've still been one of the leaders, in no uncertain terms, in a lot of different areas, but their stock just,
right,
never had that glory that it did.
totally. And that is the, we've been talking a lot about precedents today, and um, that's kind of another lesson that I've learned is that you don't want to put too much faith in a precedent. They might look the same, but they're not the same. And
Hmm.
so you want to use them as a way of kind of measuring is your current stock that you're trading, is it working? Is it holding to the precedent? And once it starts to um, shift away from that history, you need to kind of give up on it and say, okay, it served its purpose up to now, and now it doesn't, it doesn't work, as opposed to just stick with it. I was using Apple as a precedent for Tesla, and um, and it they're not the same thing. Apple never went through once the Apple move began in 2004 or so, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it went on this 20-year plus run. It never went through a period where it went on a 3-year consolidation. I mean, Apple
Yeah.
had some big corrections, but not like even the 2008 bear market, it didn't correct as much as Tesla did over the past few years. So, um, it just didn't work the same way. So
Hmm.
you can't have like too much faith in a precedent. I mean, that said, I still have a large position in Tesla, um, particularly in my non-margin accounts, which I'm just holding. I haven't sold in, I guess it's been about 4 years.
Hmm.
Since 2000, in 2020, I traded Tesla very, very actively, made a ton of money, and the tax bill was so extreme that I decided I'm going to really either shoot for long-term capital gains or just try to hold the stock. But I didn't know what I was in for. Like I really didn't realize. And in my margin account, I really got killed
Right.
holding Tesla. So
Well, and there again, I think you've shared, you've got some great YouTube videos, and some people actually mentioned this, that your YouTube videos on psychology and everything. I mean, a lot of it came down to position size again,
yeah,
right? It was getting overloaded in margin accounts, a very different situation than what you were dealing with in your non-margin accounts.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, and I mean, then that said, when Tesla hit its high back in late 2024, when it finally came out of that 3-year consolidation and hit a new high, up close to 500, those accounts where I held, where I wasn't on margin were at all-time highs.
Hmm.
Um, for the portion I was in with Tesla, but my margin account where I lost so much during that 3-year period because I just had too much and I wasn't selling, and I was forced to sell. Those are still nowhere near their highs.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think when you enter a bear market, regardless of the conviction you have in a stock or how well you've done, um, if you're gonna hold through a base or hold a long-term stock, you can't do it on margin. You just
Yeah.
can't. It's not bright. It's not. It's you put yourself in a position where you no longer have control,
Hmm.
where you can get called away, um, where you put too much pressure on yourself, where you can't handle the pressure. I mean, everyone has a breaking point, and the smartest way not to to concede is just don't put yourself in that position to begin with.